Namaste. Welcome now to our next talk on the Gita. We got interrupted by time, and we were in the 63rd verse of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where it said, forget experience, you lose discrimination. Lose discrimination, and you miss life's only purpose. It means you will lose the intelligent insight about yourself, the world around you, your own karmas, your own characteristics, and therefore you will not live life intelligently. And if you don't live it intelligently, well, you obviously live it stupidly. And then you'll mess things up and your life will be totally wasted. Most people live to no purpose. When they leave the body, they have not evolved even 5 or 6 inches. They just moseyed their way through life. And when they came to the end, they were still where they were at the beginning. No change. But we're interested in something more. So Krishna is going to explain things to us. When he has no desire and no aversion, no attraction, no repulsion, a man walks safely among the things of attraction and repulsion, or desire and aversion. So then he doesn't have to think about it. He's just indifferent. Other people may be running after them. And he doesn't have to say to himself, because he has intelligence, he doesn't have to say, no, I mustn't do that. I mustn't go to that spot. I shouldn't even pay attention. No, he doesn't have that problem. Because he is established in that inner focus that meditation produces. And of course, it's got to be regular meditation and meditation for a good long time. I don't mean 15 to 20 minutes or so. You have to be practical in your life, but don't use your life and its externals to excuse you cheating yourself, because you won't cheat God. God isn't thinking, oh, I just wish he or she would gain self-realization. Forget it. If you don't have the wish, well then, what can be done? So therefore, to obey the Atman is his peaceful joy. In other words, to not have his personality matter. People love to expound their personality or their mental traits. Well, I'm the kind of person that has to do this and that. So, well, I was just always this way or that way. Who cares? Stop it. Be a yogi. So to obey the Atman, that is, to only do what the illumination from your higher self shows you, is his peaceful joy. You're not just at peace, like, well, I don't hurt anymore. I'm not worried anymore. But you're happy, more than happy. Sorrow melts into that clear peace. That is, if things come up that would earlier have thrown you off balance and made you sad, maybe you even cry, made you be upset and feel discouraged, they don't make that result in you anymore. You don't give that response to them. You are at peace. It can happen. It has to happen. His quiet mind is soon established in peace. This is what we're after, but not just calmness. So nothing bothers me and nothing upsets me and so on. Well, again, a tree isn't upset by anything. The thing is, you've got to be living this life that has all these elements that do throw people completely off base and off balance, but it won't throw you off. There you are. You know, it's like in sort of slapstick humor where somebody may be eating and they have a fork and they stick it in their eye. Well, you know that the fork goes in your mouth and you put it in your mouth. You don't stick it in your ear and your eye. So, good sense is an essential trait of a yogi. I didn't say it's an essential need for him. It is that when he's really a yogi, then he gets good sense. Otherwise, he doesn't have good sense, not absolutely, and not in the highest sense. Therefore, if you're a yogi, you won't say, "Oh, that caught me unawares," or "Well, I didn't realize that would matter." All these. When I was in junior high, uh, we use the term "mess off." There are people who think they're great yogis and sadhakas, they're just mess offs, and their life is a mess off. But to the yogi, he's on target every moment. Why? Okay. The uncontrolled mind does not guess that the Atman is present. How can it meditate? So you and I have to have, not just you, you and I have to have a certain amount of maturity where we can say, look, mind, you may not know exactly where to look, but you quit looking where you've been looking for lifetimes. So it doesn't guess the Atman is present. How can it meditate? Well, you can learn it and you do it. Okay, here's the important one of the most important few words in the Gita. Without meditation, where is peace? The answer is nowhere. We can lull ourselves momentarily. We can feel that everything is just wonderful. And then something comes along and destroys it, pops it like a bubble. And all that is gone. I've known supposed yogis, they were following a fake teacher and a fake yoga, and they'd be smiling and they'd even meditate and go, and kind of their head would bob as if the Shakti is going up, So. And they were, and then the next time you saw them, they were miserable. They were down. Oh well. I had a friend like this. It wasn't her fault. She belonged to a yoga cult that taught her things that actually agitated her emotional bodies. And because, see, the ability to feel up and high is also the same faculty for healing, feeling down and low. So she'd be la 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 la, everything is fine. And then we lived down the hall from each other in this apartment house. And sometimes I would go and I'd knock on the door, and the door would open as if by itself, and it would just swing open. I'd walk in, take a hold of the door, close it, and she'd be behind the door crying. And she went through that career. I'm up and down, I'm up and down, and up and down. And well, what could you do? I one time actually thought, I'm planning another trip to India, and she doesn't have hardly any money, and maybe I ought to invite her to go to India with me. So I called her up. She talked, I didn't talk. I realized nothing's changed, nothing's ever going to change. And I said, well, hope everything goes all right, well for you. And then hung up, completed my plans for India without including her, unfortunately. There is no peace without meditation. Without peace, Krishna continues. Where is happiness? The answer is nowhere. All right. No comment needed. What, though, is the problem? Krishna says, excuse me, I'm going to look a bit up and down. What I'm doing is I'm moving the text up. The wind turns a ship from its course upon the waters. The wandering winds of the senses cast man's mind adrift and turn his better judgment from its course. That's as simple as can be. But remember, when Krishna was speaking, the ships were just ships that had sails on them. That the sails were impelled, and therefore then the ship was pushed forward by the wind. So there was no movement in the water if the wind wasn't there. When they were so-called becalmed, they just sat there. So the wind moves it in its course. And the wandering winds cast your mind adrift in the sense of first it's this way, first it blows that way, and nowhere. There's no progress made. And turns his better judgment from its course. So it confuses us. It bewilders us. Logically, then, Krishna says something very important. When a man can still the senses, I call him illumined, meaning he's virtually enlightened already when he gains the ability to calm the mind and to focus it in the self, not just on the self, in it. His consciousness should enter into the self. The recollected mind of such a person is awake in the knowledge of the Atman, which is dark night to the ignorant. I've already talked about my friend that said, oh, to live all according to those disciplines would be like living in a prison. Well, then, those who don't have their mind collected and focused, the very experience of life itself is darkness. The man of perfect realization and a man of perfectly deluded man, well, they're living in the same world. They have minds, eyes, ears, all that. But it's where the consciousness is positioned. So, the ignorant think that to seek the self, to know the self, is just a pipe dream, is just silly, it's just talk and false optimism. And they're not going to bother with it because it's self-deception. As a yogi, you won't be getting you'll know you're getting somewhere when other people tell you you're deluded. They tell you that if you don't watch out, the boogeyman will get you. Oh, you're going to hell. I've had people say that to me. You do this yoga stuff. No, that's the devil. I remember a woman said, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. Well, I thought that's great. God's merciful. She'll pray for me, and surely I'll be helped. God won't, of course, answer the prayer that I quit being a yogi, but that's fine. The ignorant are awake in their sense life, which they think is daylight. To the seer, it is darkness. Now, that's the perspective we have to have. They say, oh, this is really great. Guess what I just discovered? Guess what I can do? Hey, why don't you go along with me and do it? Or, hey, this is really the way, etc. The yogi knows they're speaking nonsense. They're babbling foolishness. And they're going to go into the dark. And by the way, there's not a word anywhere in the Gita that says, save them, stop them, help them. If you thwart someone's will, they just get mad at you. And then they get angry and they maybe swear at you or they tell you what an idiot you are and leave them alone. Don't touch. Hands off. It's phony compassion that makes people think they ought to interfere in other people's lives. You run your life. You don't want them to run your life. Why should you run their life? This is why a real spiritual teacher never teaches unless he's asked. He answers the questions he's asked. And that's it. Because the unqualified don't know the questions. Buddha said, those who are seeking enlightenment have to know the right questions. They won't get the answers unless they've got the question first and then they put the question. There are great masters. I've witnessed it. That trivial people come and just talk trivia and they listen. They say, yes, maybe they make a comment. Oh, yeah, I had that happen once or something. And then the trivial people just float away. They won't put their hand out and say, oh, wait, stop. Because the will has to be free. And since their will is free and they love ignorance, they are going to do everything they can to get more of that ignorance. So that's how it is. Bless them and know that it's a matter of evolution. And when they evolve enough, they will then go. Some people take the path for a while, then they fade out. But they've done it for a while and they've created some karma. That's good karma. Maybe later in their life, they'll go back to it again, but maybe it'll be a future life. But we all do fits and starts. We start, we stop, we start, we stop. Eventually, we don't stop. So be optimistic about them and don't worry. All right, now we only have 3 verses left in this chapter, and then we can conclude our consideration of it. Water flows continually into the ocean, but the ocean is never disturbed. Now, if it's just something little, like whirlpools are caused, sometime where here's a body of water and here comes another flow of water and they sort of interact on each other and then you get a whirlpool and people can drown in it. So the ocean isn't bothered. It doesn't get too full, doesn't ever feel it's empty. So water flows continually into the ocean, but the ocean is never disturbed. Desire flows into the mind of the seer, but he is never disturbed. In other words, he has some scars. He has impressions from previous lives where it isn't like, I really want that. But there is a slight movement toward that you ought to avoid. Or there's just an awareness of that path you really shouldn't take. Or there's a little bit of curiosity about it. You followed the path of ignorance for a few hundred lives, but somehow you think, oh, I haven't been that way before. And you definitely have. So desire flows into the mind of the seer, but he isn't disturbed. Yes, I am pulled toward that, but I don't have to give in to it, and I won't. So be off with it. It's very easy, actually. The seer, but see, you have to really see. What is it you see? Seeing is also in the mind in the sense of knowing and understanding. Again, it's back to Atmajnana, knowledge of the self. The seer knows peace. The man who stirs up his own lust can never know peace, because that's what people are like. Oh, well, I'm a normal person. I have life to live, and I'm going to do this and that. And we got friends. We like to go out. We like to hoop it up at the Malamute Saloon, et cetera, et cetera. They stir up their own desires. In fact, if they start becoming indifferent to them, they they get scared and they say, wait a minute, what's happened to me? I don't want to turn into a zombie. There was a young man who learned meditation from me, and later on never saw him anymore. And one of his friends said, "Oh no, Bradley says he's never coming back to the ashram to talk to you anymore." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, Bradley says that he meditated like you taught him. And Bradley, for most of his life, has wanted to make his living as a concert pianist. And whenever he would listen to music of any kind, especially piano music, he'd just feel all energized inside and sort of inspired and expanded. But after meditating for a while, he didn't react to music like that anymore. It didn't seem the most important thing in his life anymore. And he can't have that. So he stopped meditating and you won't be seeing him again." Okay, well, I didn't see him again. And you know what? The world never saw him again either, because, of course, he never became a concert pianist. And there it goes. We say water finds its own level, but what if it doesn't have any level? We should think on that. He knows peace. We're back to Krishna's wisdom, not my talk. He knows peace who has forgotten desire. He lives without craving, free from ego, free from pride. Now, if that's all you have is desires, cravings, egotism, and ego based impulses and desires and intentions and activities, and egotism itself, well, after all, I'm not just chopped liver, et cetera, you see. If you've left all that behind, and that doesn't even rise in you, you're not even rejecting it. You grew up. When you were little, you wanted your teddy bear. When you got older, you didn't. When us little boys were little boys, we played cars, remember? Now, if an adult said to you, "Hey, we want to come over to play cars?" I hope we kind of say, "Well, maybe not," and then run the other way. Of course, there are the people with the elaborate model train sets in the basement. So, anyway, living without craving, free from egotism, free from pride, he continues in this last verse, this is the state of enlightenment and Brahman. In other words, this is not something that the Stoic philosopher will come to. This is something, the one who's learned to control his mind a bit will come to. No, only those who have awakened in the self and therefore in the absolute spirit, that's the state of enlightenment. A man does not fall back from it into delusion. So, if you can fall back from it, well, you haven't got enlightened yet. That's the way it is. Because you see, it's become your nature to be enlightened. See, I can take this. Okay, here's water. I'm thirsty. Water's outside me. And I could die of thirst looking at this and saying, "Oh, I wish I had water." Now, if I take the lid off, That's known as show and tell. Then the water's inside me. And that's the state of enlightenment. It's inside you. There, and you don't fall back from it into delusion, even at the moment of death, continues Krishna. He is alive in that enlightenment. There is no other life. The poor souls that say, boy, this is really living, as they're shushing down the slope on skis. Oh, well. They're not alive. In other words, everyone who's not alive in Brahman is dead. And we need to understand that and really have that drastic a perspective, because it happens to be the truth. This is life, this is death. If you choose life, death is left behind. It's not there just in case you decide to walk a few steps backward. It becomes impossible for the truly enlightened person. It's a very wonderful thing. And there's only one way to do it. Back to it again. That is yoga. Yoga meditation. Meditation and japa. Japa and meditation. Soham japa, soham meditation, soham sadhana. That's the way. And what a wonderful, wonderful thing it is to know that that is the way. So happily, we could say to each other momentarily, namaste, until next time.